Sableye is one of the best Great League Pokemon in Pokemon Go and is one of the best safe swaps in the game as well, but only with return, which means it has to be purified. And getting a good PvP IV Purified Sableye can be very difficult. So in this video, the Sableye PvP IV Deep Dive, I'm basically going to highlight the minimum bulk checks that you need on your Sableye to make sure that it's as good as the best possible purified Sableye in existence. Also in this video, I'm going to validate why you really want to have that return, the purified Sableye, over the Power Gem Sableye. And the rationale isn't that return is just that good, it's really because Power Gem is just that bad. And even if you've already built a XL purified Sableye already, you're really going to want to pay attention to this video just so you can be more aware of your personal Sableye's strengths and limitations, because there are some pretty high-end HP and defense checks, and there are some pretty interesting attack breakpoints as well. Also, if you want to reference any of this information in a text-based format, I do have my Sableye PvP IV Deep Dive up on GamePress, link in the description of course. I know that referencing these numbers and stuff like that in a video can be pretty cumbersome, so yeah, it's all spelled out for you here, also on GamePress. So what's the problem with Power Gem Sableye, right? Well, Power Gem is just really bad. To simplify it, compared to Foul Play, in order for Power Gem to be a better idea than Foul Play, not return, but Foul Play, the opponent either has to be doubly weak to rock-type attacks, so Charizard, Talonflame, Articuno, or they have to resist Dark and be weak to rock-type attacks. So think about like Mandibuzz there. But in situations where the opponent merely just resists Dark-type attacks, or they're only single weak to rock-type attacks, Foul Play often can be a better option than Power Gem is. So if Power Gem is already worse than Foul Play in these situations where it should be an advantage, but it really isn't, then how is it supposed to compare to Return? Now, when it comes to Return, even in purely neutral situations, like a Pokemon isn't weak to Dark and they're not weak to the normal type attack, Return is as powerful damage per energy wise as Foul Play can be. There's a lot of situations where you reach a Return and you throw that knowing your opponent won't shield it, and you do huge nuke damage to them. So even outside of situations where a opponent is, resisting Dark type attacks, Return is still a very good move for Sableye to use. So all things considered, Power Gem is just bad. Shadow Sneak is like as bad as Power Gem, but it doesn't have any advantages. So Shadow Sneak is super bad. And I'm not saying that you can't win with a non-purified Sableye. I'm not saying that you can't hit Legend rank with a non-purified Sableye. I'm just saying that the advantages that purified Sableye has, they're so huge that I would personally never advise anyone ever build a Power Gem Sableye. I would always advise people to hold out for a purified Sableye. I had to hold out all the way until Season 8 to build a Sableye because I was trying to get a good IV spread for so long, and it took me so long to get all the XL candy. In fact, even after the Spotlight Hour tomorrow, I may not have enough XL candy to have my Purified Sableye be at the right level without having it be a best buddy. So it is a pretty steep climb to get those XL candies too. So all things considered, if you can help it, try not to build a Power Gem Sableye. Bleh. And if Power Gem gets buffed in the future, Purified Sableye is still going to be better because it can bluff to the opponent that it doesn't have Power Gem because it's purified. But guess what? It has Power Gem, so even then, Purified Sableye still technically better. And with that out of the way, let's get into the stat checks. So to start out, we're going to talk about Sableye's defense and HP, because overall Sableye really wants to be bulky. That's the main focus of Sableye. The attack breakpoints I'm going to talk about later are like extra garnishing. They can be seen as tiebreakers. If you're really interested in the utility that they bring, they can be goals, but I don't really see the attack breakpoints as goals. They're just neat extra things that you maybe can do. Now when it comes to the flavors of Sableye, I'd say there's two distinct flavors. One is the high defense, medium HP, and the other one's going to be the medium defense, high HP. And if you find yourself with the high defense and the high HP, congratulations, you basically have the rank 1 Purified Sableye. We all hate you. So the high defense Sableye is going to be looking to have about a 124.7 defense with at least a 123 HP stat. Of course, more defense, more HP would be better, but I wouldn't want to drop lower than either of those values. The main focus with this defense check is the 124.7 is catching a slightly attack weighted Skarmory and a high stat product, low attack weight Vigoroth. When it comes to Skarmory, you're potentiating the 1-1 shield scenario, and you could potentially get the 2-2 shield scenario. And when it comes to Vigoroth, you could possibly get the 0-1 shield scenario or the 2-2 shield scenario. Now, when I talk about shield scenarios, when I say 1-1, I mean you spend 1 shield, your opponent spends 1 shield. When I say 0-1, you don't spend a shield, and your opponent does spend a shield. Now, when it comes to the Vigoroth, it does feel a little bit nebulous because it is a low attack, high stat product Vigoroth. This is the bare minimum check for defense, so obviously more defense would be better, but it's already very difficult to reach this defense check to begin with, so understandably you might not get there. And another thing to mention with Vigoroth too is that Vigoroth is most optimal when it is a high stat product Vigoroth. Higher attack stat Vigoroths are generally just worse. I don't have a high stat product one myself, but being a fine connoisseur of PvP Ivs, if you talk around, ask any high-end battler, they're going to tell you that you're really going to want to have a high stat product Vigoroth. So it may not be the main course, it may not be every single Vigoroth you fight, but having at least that defense check means that against the highest, upper echelon of Vigoroth users, you'll be even more prepared to take them on. Now, this defense check also encompasses a Jellicent. Starting at 123.7 defense, you could potentiate the 0-1 and 1-2 shield scenario against a Hex Jellicent, which is pretty nice. This defense weight can also help out in the Lapras 2-2 shield scenario, and it can also maybe help out against Bastiodon. Once again, this is a high stat product Bastiodon situation, but with more wiggle room than Vigoroth. We're looking at 123.22 plus defense, and you could potentiate the 1-2 shield scenario. Will you run into a super good XL Bastiodon every single day of your life? Maybe not, but it definitely helps to be prepared for when you do run into Caleb Pang or something. And then finally, this defense weight can also help out against Obstagoon in the 0-0 shield scenario, as long as you have a 124.26 defense stat or maybe lower. This is up against a Egg Hatch, Raid Catch, Vigoroth IV spread, so pretty high attack weight. Now, understandably, you might not value that high defense check iteration of Purified Sableye because some of those defense checks are a little bit flaky. To add to that, you may not even have that high of a defense Purified Sableye, and the medium defense Sableye with the high HP is also quite acceptable, and it's the kind of Sableye that I'm personally using in PvP. The medium defense check starts at 122.4 defense, and you want to have about a 125 to 126 HP stat along with that. If you don't have that HP stat, 123 is still also acceptable, but because you are dropping on that defense, you could pick up charge move breakpoints from your opponents, so I really wouldn't want to drop lower than 124 if you can help it. Now, when it comes to the defense check itself, the 122.4 lines up with the bottom range of the Skarmory 1-1 shield scenario, potentially the 2-2 shield scenario. Not the precise bottom, this is against the max HP Skarmory, which is arguably the best Skarmory, so you could go lower on the defense, technically, but I'd prefer to be at 122.4 or above. This defense check can also help out against Frostlass, maybe getting the 1-1 shield scenario. The Frostlass matchup is also CMP based sometimes as well, as I'll discuss later on, but getting the defense check is another route to victory against Frostlass as well. This defense check also covers the Dugong 1-1 shield scenario, Galar Stunfisk in the 1-1 shield scenario, Galvantula in the 1-1 shield scenario, and then Shadow Nidoqueen general potential, depending on what's thrown and when and what lands and how. It's a dicey matchup, but any little bit helps, right? Now, when it comes to the HP check, 125 is perfectly fine for just about all situations I've observed, except for one. And that's the Sableye mirror matchup, the 1-1 shield scenario specifically. The 0-0 and the 2-2 are CMP based, but the 1-1, if you have 126 HP, you can win it by just 1 HP. If you have 123 HP, then you can tie it, you both get KO'd at the same time. But if your opponent has the 126 HP, well, then they'll beat you. And if you both have 126 HP, well, well, then it's still going to be a tie. So between the high defense Sableye and the medium defense Sableye, which one's the better? And honestly, it comes down to what you personally have to work with, because getting a good PvP IV Sableye is already pretty difficult to begin with. And it also comes down to what you personally value out of what I just described to you. Obviously, the best type of Sableye, in my opinion, is going to be the high defense and the high HP, but it's very unlikely to have the best of both worlds here, so it really is up to you to decide which one you can build with what you have to work with. And finally, we're going to talk about the attack breakpoints here. Now, when it comes to attack weights on Purified Sableye, I feel like they take a massive backseat to the defense and HP checks of Sableye. I'd say the attack breakpoints are more of like tiebreakers. If you have several Purified Sableye candidates, they all have relatively the same stat checks. And some of them hit these attack breakpoints that could be worth considering. If you're looking at a early build PvP IV Sableye, you don't think that you're going to get a better one anytime soon. This is also something that can help guide you there. But at the end of the day, I personally feel that the high bulk Sableyes are the goals. That said, these slight attack weights are pretty good. The main attack weight that really stands out to me is the 120.8 attack stat. With 120.8, you can begin to get CMP on Frostlass. Now, this is going to be up against a high stat product Frostlass, which in my opinion is the best kind of Frostlass. And if the Frostlass does have a high enough of an attack weight where you don't get CMP on it, then usually it doesn't have enough defense or HP to really stand up to Sableye that well to begin with in the even Steven type scenarios. So it's like, if they are the high stat product, you're in a good spot. And if they aren't the high stat product, then you're already in a good spot. This attack weight also enables you to fully farm Deoxys defense form in the 1-1 shield scenario. So 1-1 shield, you spend a shield, they spend a shield, and then instead of throwing foul play to defeat them, because you got the attack break point, you can just Shadow Claw them down and they won't reach that final Rock Slide or Thunderbolt, which can be pretty huge. Brings you to basically 100 energy for the next thing that comes in. So you already clowned Deoxys defense form, now you clown it even harder. This attack weight also covers Mew CMP as well. Mew CMP basically begins at 119.3 attack, but it can go all the way up to 121.5. Now, when it comes to a 121.5 attack Mew, there's only one Mew that can do that, and we can't choose our Mew IVs, so the potential for your opponent to have that is extraordinarily unlikely. A safe soft cap on the attack is about 120.23 to 121.01. I feel like that's a lot more reasonable to have good expectations to get CMP on Mew, and for that reason I feel like 120.8 is probably good enough, since the 121.01s are also very few and far between. Comment below if your Mew's attack stat is 121.01 or higher, and make me feel afraid of you. There's an even higher attack weight on Sableye that you can consider as well, 121.6. With that attack weight, you get a breakpoint on Greedent, which can potentially allow you to do the 1-1 shield scenario, straight foul play, and also increases your potential to KO it with landing a return as well. You just have to watch out for those crunch debuffs to have it happen consistently. This attack weight can also help out against Abomasnow and Shadow Abomasnow in the 1-1 shield scenarios. Once again, straight foul play. And then of course the 121.5 is the attack cap on Mew CMP. Only one Mew IV split can have that high of an attack split, but hey, it could be the Mew that's out to get you on your climb to legend. And wouldn't that be something? Once again, I really don't advise chasing for any of these attack weights. You really should focus on the bulk, but if these attack weights do appeal to you, they are something you could look out for, especially if you do plan on building 2 Sableyes. Now it's time for the canned PvP IVs. And when it comes to Purified Sableye with the stat checks I talked about in this video, there's about 133 to 180 different splits that can work out well. So rather than showing them to you on the screen here, because that's kind of ridiculous, I have links to pvpivs.com highlighting the different stat checks for you, making it nice and easy. Links in the description, and of course links to the article as well in the description below. You just click on this if you want to know what the high defense splits are, and then here's the table with the defense and HP checks already on there. I also have one for the medium defense, and then I also have one with a medium defense with the slight attack as well, if you're more interested in that. I also have one for what I call desperation defense. I didn't mention this in the defense section, but 121.54 defense is as low as I'd personally go. It adds 57 more splits for you, or 47 47 more splits for you, so that could help you out if you're really hurting for a good PvP IV Purified Sableye. So that's all I gotta say for the PvP IVs on a Purified Sableye. If you have any questions on this content, of course, comment below, let me know what's up, and I'll be happy to help you out. And if you enjoyed this kind of content, you want to see more like it, well, make sure to subscribe to SwagTips. I'd also like to give a special shout out to these Patreon supporters. If you want to support Swagman on Patreon, link in the description. Now, before you go clearing your inventory of all other Purified Sableyes, I really do want you to think about the Mega Sableye. Mega Sableye is actually the only Great League Mega that actually has a higher stat product than its predecessor, right? All their Mega Evolutions get a higher attack stat, so they end up being kind of worse for Great League PvP. But Mega Sableye is actually arguably better than regular Sableye, so when Megas do eventually come to PvP, it may be good to hold on to a good PvP IV split for a Purified Mega Sableye, just in case, right?